This is the CIP Group 8. My name's Brady.
I'm
My
Krista.
name's my name's Leah.
And Luke.
Our primary subject was about food insecurity and how it affects college students, so like a graduate and undergraduate level, and we were interested how to help these students on educating them on how they can find these resources for food and how they can both educate themselves on how to have healthy diets and healthy lifestyles through on-campus programs.
We decided to look this up because it's a shocking how many people this impacts, and um, it's really important for students to have proper health and nutrition to learn efficiently. Almost 35% of college students, according to Southern Illinois University, suffer from food insecurity. We wanted to try to help alleviate some of the stresses and uh, negative effects that come from this.
Okay, so for my part of the project, I went to a local food hometown, which is southern Indiana. It's kind of rural. And whenever I went there, I volunteered for 3 hours. And for the most of the time, we were just kind of moving stuff around and sorting out stuff that the community brought in. And I asked them a few questions for the project, and they said that only about 10% of their customers are from college campuses, mainly because it's in a rural area with not a lot of the population that goes to college around there. And about 75% of their customers have children in elementary school. So that was my assumptions were that there wouldn't be a lot of college um, students that went to this food pantry, but in the larger cities, I would say this is a lot more. My assumption was confirmed whenever I spoke with the people that work there.
So for my part, I researched what other college campuses did to identify the problem of food insecurity, and then how they helped with the problem. Through this, I learned that almost all colleges face food insecurity on some level. I just didn't realize how many people face it at a graduate and undergraduate level. It was very shocking.
So yeah, I can contact facilities around campus that provide information about food pantries. So like COREC and PUSH have a lot of flyers and announcements around their facilities about local food drives and food pantries and when free food will be available around campus. So I found that that was at least helpful, but the more interesting thing that I found was that the COREC offers cooking classes and dieting courses, and Push offers individual nutrition consultations so that students can learn how to build a healthy lifestyle around the resources that are available to them. So I found that they usually serve the general community, and there were some college students involved, but it wasn't too much. It wasn't a large part of the demographics that they serve. But I wasn't able to get specific data because I wasn't able to talk to someone that had all of the data at these specific locations.
So I kind of did a similar thing to what Luke did. I live in a pretty rural area, um, so there wasn't a whole lot of college students that went to this particular food pantry. But I went and volunteered at a local food pantry and interviewed the owner and asked some questions about kind of this topic. And like I said, they didn't personally at that facility have a lot of college students, but they did point out that um, households with children are much more likely to suffer from food insecurity, and it's 20% of households with families do, and 12% that do suffer from it but don't have children. So it's almost twice as much, and this can um, go with the same kids as they go on to college, and um, it likely leads to some of these issues. And when we first started this topic, I never would have dreamed it'd be that high. So this is a much more important problem than I even realized.
So, for one of our articles that we began our research on, it's called Food Waste and Sustainability on Campus. The author wrote about the effects of food waste and how to cut back on it because it's one of the major problems that creates food insecurity. They shed light on different organizations that helped with this, one major one being Food Recovery Network. It's based in college campuses, and overall in 2017 they created 300,000 meals out of 388,840 pounds of campus-produced food waste. This was done by only 217 chapters spread throughout 44 states. They also talk about fundraisers to help promote awareness of food waste and how that creates food insecurity and solving that problem. Purdue does not surprisingly have a way to create meals out of the waste that we're creating, which is surprising, but it's not really feasible at the time because of the amount that would need to be put in first. Therefore, the current setup that we have is probably the best solution to help college campus students, as long as the students are educated on the resources that are provided to them.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible how much how much food can be saved through this on-campus waste, and how much food is kind of wasted by our campuses across the country. I think it'd be great to improve this and even be able to feed more and more people that may need the food. And you always want to waste as little as we can. So I think this is an important thing to look into.
I think that was a good point you brought up, because even though there weren't a lot of college students at the pantry that I went to, I was still asking them about college campuses, and she highlighted that one of the best ways that you can help with the issue of food insecurity is by making wasteful and that issue as well. And I mean, it also saves people like campuses. It saves them money as well, which they can put to doing more for people who struggle with food insecurity problems.
Yeah, and I found an article from NPR that discussed food waste on campus, and I feel like a big part of this issue that why Purdue can't necessarily reuse the waste that they have from dining halls is because a lot of the campuses around America at least use buffet style dining halls, so it'd be kind of hard to separate all the waste from that and to try to distribute them to other college students. But even though it's a disappointment, I found out that Purdue has an extension office from the Health and Human Sciences that is federally funded and it's been around since like 1994, and they have different uh, programs to help troubled communities. So like they help seniors, homeless people, migrants, and single parent families. Mostly those that receive food benefits, and they mostly work in communities that have schools where most of the students have reduced lunches. So I found out that this was at least very helpful for not only like the college community, but for the community around it as well.
All right. So through this project, I've learned that food insecurity affects a shocking number of college students, as I said before. I also learned that there's a lot of resources available for students, some of them that I wasn't even aware of and that are on our campus and dedicated solely to our students, our faculty, our staff, one of which being the ACE Food Pantry. And I just think we educated our students, had maybe in like a BGR session about how they can combat food insecurity, I think that would help a lot in future years that students get an apartment and don't know how to pay for stuff. And I think that would just help a lot cut down on the food insecurity within our campus.
Yeah, I had never heard of the Ace Food Pantry before we started this project, and things like that should be definitely communicated to students because otherwise they could be suffering from this kind of stuff and never even know that it was available to them. Um, so it'd be great if we could make sure that things were utilized to their as much as they can be.
Yeah, I agree about
I would have.
BGR because during BGR we were informed about so many other things, but not much about food insecurity came up. So I feel like that should be really pushed and really implemented in those programs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, because this is a
I think
very
that's one of the main things that I've learned through this project was one of the biggest problems with food insecurity is that there's just such a lack of what these organizations are offering, and I mean it's hard for somebody to get help if they need it. Another thing that I learned doing this project was the variance that food insecurity affects all the way from elementary school to people who are 60, 70 years old. And not all families can provide enough food for themselves or their children, which is just not. That's why the information should be shared more.
yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yes, most definitely.
My experience with this is going to help me with my paper because I learned that education about how to cook food and how to balance your diet and live a healthy lifestyle is just as important as the resources allocated to these people. So I feel like people can have as much access to healthy food as they might need, but they might not know how to like cook it, how to prepare it, and how to put together like a balanced meal. So I feel like that should be as equally like advocated for. Like if we were to try to push to have like food drive or food pantry information included in BGR, I feel like education about how to prepare food and how to have a balanced diet should be uh, just as equal, I guess. Anyway.
Especially since like a lot of college
That
students, especially incoming freshmen, don't really know how to like handle making a balanced meal because their parents made it. Like I was raised by a single mother and I knew, but a lot of kids wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
So
point.
that would only help more people. I definitely agree with you on that
Hmm.
one.
I think the biggest thing I've learned through all this is that I had never, like I'd mentioned earlier, I never realized how big of an issue this was. When I think of people in college, I think of how much food there is at the dining courts and stuff, rather than some of the kids that might be struggling every day with this. So it's really opened my eyes, and I'm glad that we have looked into this topic because it's very important to the health of everyone on campus, and I think it's very important that we work on trying to improve it.
I would agree with that. I would Krista that these food pantries it should be supported to provide balanced meals, not just any food to the people that are coming to these places. Um, I just think that ethically and morally that would be right rather than just providing anything, even though it might be cheaper to still provide the balanced diet.
So what I learned from this project will help me to spread my knowledge with my fellow colleagues and with others that are in the same situation, even if they don't go to college. I feel like this is very useful because I myself can utilize some of the resources that we learned about, so like the nutrition courses from the COREC so you can learn how to make more balanced meals or how to make crock pot meals even if you don't have that much time as a college student, or going on to have the individual nutrition uh, meetings, I guess, that they have at Push. I feel like that will help me lead an even better lifestyle so I can take care of myself. They really push the idea that having a longer life and having a healthier life starts with your diet. So I feel like that would be very important for many students to utilize, even if they don't experience food insecurity.
Yeah, I think the main thing that I've learned through this, like I've said earlier, I didn't realize how big of a problem it was, and I would like to make sure that everyone does know, make the awareness for this much greater, and try to help to work to improve on all of these issues, and whether that be just by encouraging people to not waste food at the dining courts or to um, educate others on the sources we have, like Ace Pantry and things like that. So um, I think that this has really been an enlightening experience.
Me moving project, I would say that the biggest thing that I'm going to work on would be making communication better between these organizations and the people that need the help, because if the if there's no communication between the people and the organization, um, the people who could be getting help aren't receiving it, and this is probably one of the biggest things that I feel like I can do something about and want to do something about.
So overall, for this project for me taught me how to be more aware of my contribution to food waste and how I can help people who are experiencing food insecurity, maybe by educating them, talking to them, or even like helping them get food and get a balanced diet. Um, I'm gonna do my best after this and moving forward to not buy more groceries than I'm gonna use and create food waste, but also cook the proper amount of food so that there's not leftovers in the fridge that go bad or anything like that. And I'll encourage people that I'm around, maybe my roommates, to do similar or the same things to lower their food waste as well. And then just further educate people who are facing food insecurity or just on their basic nutrition.
Yeah, so this is a flyer we made. It's pretty general. The QR code that's included on the bottom goes to a website which has all of the food pantries in Lafayette, Indiana, and around different towns and cities in Indiana itself. It also talks about the nutrition courses that Push and COREC have to offer, even if some students don't experience food insecurity. So we hope to hang these around campus, and that'll have a good impact on the local community until we can push more for including this information in programs like BGR.